Tom was a fisherman who lived in a small wooden house near the river. He was not rich, but he was peaceful. Every day, he followed the same routine. He woke up early, washed his face with cold water, drank a cup of plain tea, and walked toward his boat. Fishing was not just his work. It was his life. The river had raised him since childhood, and he trusted it like an old friend. The village near the river was quiet. Most people slept while Tom worked. He liked the silence because it helped him think. His thoughts were simple. He thought about the weather, the water, and the fish. He did not expect surprises from life anymore. At his age, calm days were enough. That morning felt different, though Tom did not know why. The air was colder than usual, and a soft mist covered the river. The water moved slowly, as if it was hiding something. Tom pushed his boat into the river and sat down. The sound of the paddle touching water was the only noise around him. As the sun slowly rose, Tom threw his net into the river. He waited patiently, watching the light reflect on the water. Time passed quietly. Birds flew over his head, and the mist began to fade. Everything felt normal until Tom tried to pull his net back. The net did not move. At first, Tom thought the net was stuck on a rock. This happened sometimes, so he did not worry. He adjusted his grip and pulled again. This time, the boat shook slightly. Whatever was under the water was heavy. Too heavy for fish. Tom frowned. His heart beat a little faster. He leaned forward and pulled with more strength. The rope felt tight in his hands. His arms began to hurt, but he did not stop. Slowly, something dark appeared under the water. When it came closer to the surface, Tom felt a chill run through his body. It was not a rock. It was not wood from a broken boat. It was a coffin. Tom froze. His hands loosened, and the rope slipped slightly. He had never seen anything like this in the river before. The coffin was old and wet, but it was clearly shaped and closed. Water dripped from its sides as it moved with the current. For a moment, Tom thought he was dreaming. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The coffin was still there. Fear entered his heart, but curiosity was stronger. He had spent his whole life by this river, and it had never scared him before. He slowly pulled the coffin closer to the boat and tied the rope tightly. The boat moved slowly toward the shore. Tom did not look away from the coffin even once. His mind filled with questions. How did it get here? Who placed it in the water? Why was it sealed so carefully? When he reached the shore, Tom jumped out of the boat and stood on the wet ground. With great effort, he dragged the coffin onto the sand. It was heavier than he expected. His breath became fast, and his hands shook. Now that the coffin was fully out of the water, Tom could see it clearly. It was made of dark wood. The surface was smooth, not broken. On the top, there was a small carving of a bird. The carving was simple but carefully made. This detail confused Tom even more. He looked around. The riverbank was empty. No people. No voices. Just the sound of water and wind. Tom thought about leaving. He thought about calling someone from the village. This was not his problem. He was just a fisherman. But his feet did not move. Something inside him told him that this moment mattered. The river had given him this burden for a reason. Tom took a deep breath and placed his hand on the coffin. It was cold. He slowly walked around it, inspecting every side. There were no marks of damage. No signs of force. It looked like it had been placed into the water with care. This made Tom feel uneasy, but also sad. Whoever made this coffin did not do it without thought. Tom sat down on a nearby stone. His mind went back to his childhood. He remembered stories told by elders about the river. They said the river carried not just water, but memories. It carried love, pain, and secrets. At the time, he had laughed at those stories. Now, he was not laughing. The sun was higher now, and the mist had completely disappeared. The coffin lay quietly on the shore, as if waiting. Tom wiped his face with his sleeve. He knew that once he opened it, nothing would be the same. Still, he hesitated. His heart felt heavy. He was afraid of what he might see. He was afraid of what he might feel. But he was also afraid of walking away and never knowing the truth. Tom stood up. He walked toward the coffin again. His hands hovered over the lid. He noticed the bird carving once more. It looked peaceful, not dark or frightening. That small detail gave him a strange sense of comfort. Tom closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he placed both hands on the lid. The coffin was silent. The river behind him continued to flow, unaware of the moment about to unfold. Tom slowly began to lift the lid, not knowing that what he was about to see would change his heart forever. Tom's hands trembled as he lifted the lid of the coffin. The wood made a soft sound as it moved, heavy with water and time. Tom expected something frightening, something that would make him step back. Instead, what he saw made him stand still in silence. Inside the coffin lay a young girl. She was wrapped in a clean white cloth. Her face looked calm, as if she was sleeping after a long day. Her hair was neatly tied, and her hands rested gently on her chest. Between her hands was a small wooden bird, carved with care. It looked exactly like the bird carved on the lid of the coffin. Tom felt his chest tighten. His breath became slow and heavy. This was not what he imagined. There was no sign of fear or pain, only peace. He stepped back and sat down on the sand. His legs felt weak. His eyes stayed fixed on the coffin. The river breeze touched his face, but he did not feel the cold. His mind was filled with questions. Who was this child? Why was she placed in the river? Who made sure she was wrapped with such care? After a few moments, Tom stood up again. He leaned closer to the coffin, careful and respectful. Near the girl's side, he noticed a bundle of papers tied with a thin string. The papers were dry, protected inside a small cloth pouch. Tom gently picked them up. His hands shook as he untied the string. He hesitated before reading, but he knew these papers held answers. The first paper was written in simple handwriting. It was a letter. The letter began with a name. Anna. Anna wrote that she was the mother of the girl lying in the coffin. She wrote that years ago, a sudden flood had destroyed their home near the river. The water came fast, stronger than anyone expected. Anna tried to save her child, but the river was too powerful. Tom swallowed hard as he continued reading. Anna wrote that she survived, but her heart never healed. She spent many years living with guilt and sadness. She blamed herself for what happened. She could not leave the river because it was the last place she saw her child. One day, Anna decided to do something she believed was right. She built the coffin with her own hands. She wrapped her daughter carefully and placed her inside with love. She carved the bird as a symbol of freedom and peace. Anna wrote that she placed the coffin into the river, hoping it would reach someone kind. Someone who would give her child a proper farewell. Someone who would remember her not with fear, but with love. Tom felt tears fill his eyes. He wiped his face, but more tears followed. He had lived a quiet life, far from deep sorrow, yet this story touched him deeply. He read the next letter. It was shorter. Anna asked the finder to speak kind words for the child. She asked them to remember that love does not disappear, even when people are gone. She thanked whoever found the coffin and trusted them with her greatest treasure. Tom folded the letters carefully and placed them back inside the pouch. He stood there for a long time, looking at the girl. His heart felt heavy, but also warm. He felt a connection he could not explain. He looked around the riverbank again. The world continued as usual. Birds flew above. The water moved gently. Life did not stop, even when moments like this happened. Tom knew he could not leave the coffin there. He could not treat this as something strange and walk away. Anna trusted the river, and now the river trusted him. He decided to carry the coffin to a safer place near his home. It was not easy. The coffin was heavy, and his body was tired. But his mind was strong. Every step felt meaningful. When he reached his small house, Tom placed the coffin under a large tree near the river. The tree was old and strong. It had seen many seasons, many stories. Tom believed it was a good place. He sat beside the coffin as the sun moved across the sky. He did not rush. He felt no fear anymore. Only respect and responsibility. As evening approached, Tom prepared a simple meal, but he could not eat much. His thoughts stayed with the girl and her mother. He wondered how much strength it took to write those letters. How much love it took to let the river carry such a precious goodbye. When night came, Tom lit a small lamp near the tree. The soft light touched the coffin and the bird carving. The shadows danced gently, creating a peaceful scene. Tom spoke softly, as if the girl could hear him. He spoke kind words. He spoke of the river, the sky, and the birds. He promised she was not alone anymore. The river flowed quietly beside them, carrying its endless stories forward. Tom sat there until the stars filled the sky. He knew his life had changed. This was not just a strange event. It was a message. And Tom was now part of a story much bigger than his own. The next morning, Tom woke up before sunrise. He had slept very little. His dreams were filled with images of the river, the wooden bird, and the quiet face of the young girl. When he opened his eyes, he felt a strange mix of sadness and purpose. He knew this day would be important. He stepped outside his house. The air was cool and fresh. The large tree near the river stood quietly, and beneath it rested the coffin. The soft light of morning touched the wood, making it look warm instead of cold. Tom stood there for a long time, thinking. He remembered the letters again. Anna trusted a stranger. She trusted the river. Now Tom carried that trust. He felt it was his duty to honor it in the best way he could. Tom decided that the girl deserved a proper farewell. Not a rushed one, and not a careless one. Something peaceful. Something full of respect. He walked to the village. The path was familiar, but his steps felt heavier than usual. When he reached the first house, he met an old woman named May. She had known Tom for many years. She looked at his face and knew something was wrong. Tom told her everything. He spoke slowly and carefully. He did not hide any detail. May listened without interrupting. Her eyes grew soft with emotion. After Tom finished, May placed her hand on his arm. She said the girl should be remembered with kindness, not fear. She promised to help. Word spread quietly through the village. Tom did not want noise or attention. Still, a few kind people came forward. A man named Sam offered to help dig a resting place near the tree. A woman named Rose brought clean cloth and flowers from her garden. No one asked questions that did not matter. By midday, the small group stood near the river. The place was calm. The sound of water filled the silence. Tom felt thankful. This was how it should be. Before anything else, Tom opened the coffin once more. He looked at the girl again. Her face was still peaceful. The wooden bird rested gently in her hands. Tom placed the letters beside her, believing they belonged together. He spoke softly, even though his voice shook. He spoke of love, of a mother who never forgot, and of a river that carried memories. The others listened quietly. Some wiped their eyes. No one turned away. When the time came, they lowered the coffin carefully into the ground near the tree. The flowers were placed on top. The earth covered the wood slowly. Each movement was gentle. Tom felt a deep ache in his chest, but also relief. He felt that Anna's wish had been fulfilled. After the farewell, the villagers left one by one. They did not speak much. There were moments when words were not needed. Tom stayed behind. He sat near the tree as the sun began to lower. The river flowed calmly, just as it always had. But now, Tom saw it differently. He noticed small details he had ignored before. The way the water reflected the sky. The way birds rested on nearby rocks. The way the wind moved through the leaves. Everything felt connected. As night fell, Tom returned to his house. He was tired, but his heart felt lighter. For the first time since finding the coffin, he slept deeply. Days passed. Tom returned to fishing, but something had changed. He was quieter than before. He spent more time watching the river instead of just working. He felt like a listener now, not just a fisherman. One afternoon, while repairing his net, Tom noticed something floating near the shore. It was small. He walked closer and picked it up. It was a wooden bird. The same shape as the one carved on the coffin. Tom's hands froze. His heart beat fast. He looked around, but there was no one nearby. The bird was smooth and clean, as if it had just been made. He held it carefully. He did not feel fear. He felt warmth. Tom took the bird home and placed it on a small shelf near his window. From that day on, strange but gentle things began to happen. Fish returned to the river in greater numbers. Tom's nets were full more often. The river felt alive again, generous and calm. Villagers began to visit Tom more often. They sat by the river and talked. Some shared stories of their past. Some spoke of loss. Some simply enjoyed the quiet. Tom listened. He realized that the river did not just bring sorrow. It also brought healing. It gave people a place to let go and remember. One evening, May visited Tom again. She looked at the wooden bird on the shelf and smiled. She said that some stories do not end with sadness. They change people. They soften hearts. Tom agreed. He walked to the tree every morning and evening. He kept the place clean. He spoke kind words. He did not feel alone there. In his heart, Tom believed the girl was at peace. He believed Anna was finally heard. And he believed the river had chosen him for a reason. Life continued, but Tom was no longer just a fisherman. He was a keeper of a story. And the river, flowing endlessly beside him, carried that story forward with quiet grace. Time moved forward, but the story near the river did not fade. Tom's days followed a new rhythm. He still fished every morning, but he also spent time near the old tree. He cleaned the ground, removed fallen leaves, and placed fresh flowers when he could find them. The place felt peaceful, and many villagers began to feel the same way. People started visiting the river more often. Some came alone. Some came with family. They did not come out of fear or curiosity. They came because the place made them feel calm. The riverbank became a place where people sat quietly and thought about life. Tom noticed the change. He noticed how people spoke more softly near the tree. Children asked fewer questions and listened more. Even the river seemed gentler, as if it understood what it carried. One afternoon, a traveler came to the village. His name was Ben. He was a simple man who moved from place to place, helping where he could. When he heard about the river and the tree, he asked Tom to tell him the story. Tom shared everything. He spoke of the coffin, the letters, and the farewell. Ben listened closely. When Tom finished, Ben nodded and said that some places become special because of love and care, not because of fear. Ben stayed in the village for a few days. During that time, he helped repair old boats and broken fences. He also carved small wooden birds and gave them to the children. He said the bird was a sign of hope and freedom. The children liked the birds. They tied strings to them and carried them around. Laughter returned to the riverbank. Tom watched from a distance and smiled. He felt that the place was healing, not only for him but for everyone. One evening, after Ben left the village, Tom noticed something new. Near the tree, a small wooden sign had been placed. It did not have a name. It only had simple words that said "Remember with kindness." Tom did not know who placed it there. He did not ask. Some things did not need answers. That night, a strong rain fell. The river rose higher than usual. Tom watched from his window with concern. The memories of the letters returned to his mind. He feared the water might disturb the resting place near the tree. When the rain stopped, Tom went outside. The ground was wet, and the river moved fast. His heart beat hard as he reached the tree. The resting place was safe. The water had stopped just short of it. The tree stood firm, its roots strong and deep. Tom felt relief wash over him. He placed his hand on the tree and whispered a quiet thank you. After that night, Tom began to believe that the river and the land were protecting the place together. He felt that love had created a balance. Days turned into weeks. Seasons slowly changed. The air grew warmer, and the days longer. The village felt brighter. People smiled more. They helped each other without being asked. Tom's fishing improved even more. He shared his catch with neighbors, especially those who needed it. He felt no loss in giving. He felt richer than ever. One morning, a young woman named Lena visited Tom. She said she had lost someone dear to her long ago and never found peace. She heard about the river and came seeking quiet. Tom did not give advice. He simply invited her to sit near the tree. They sat in silence for a long time. The river flowed. The wind moved gently. Tears fell from Lena's eyes, but her face softened. She said she finally felt understood. She thanked Tom and left with a lighter step. Moments like this became common. Tom realized that the story was no longer only about the girl or her mother. It had grown into something larger. It had become a place of comfort for many. One evening, as the sun set, Tom noticed a familiar shape on the water. A small wooden bird floated gently toward the shore. He picked it up and held it close. He placed it near the tree with the others that villagers had added over time. The resting place was now surrounded by small symbols of care. Tom felt a deep sense of peace. He understood now that some stories do not end. They continue through actions, through kindness, through quiet moments shared by strangers. As the stars appeared in the sky, Tom sat near the river and listened. The water flowed steadily, carrying memories, hope, and healing forward. And Tom remained there, not as a man tied to sorrow, but as someone who had learned how love could shape the world in simple and powerful ways. Years passed, but the river never forgot. Tom grew older, his hair turning gray, his hands rough from work and time. Still, every morning he walked to the river, just as he always had. The boat was older now, but it floated well. The water greeted him with the same quiet voice. The place near the tree had become special to the village. People no longer spoke of it as something sad. They spoke of it as a place of peace. Travelers stopped there. Villagers brought flowers, wooden birds, and kind thoughts. Children grew up hearing the story, not as something frightening, but as a lesson about care and love. Tom never saw himself as important. When people thanked him, he smiled and said the river did the work. He believed that truth with all his heart. One morning, Tom felt weaker than usual. His steps were slow, and his breath was heavy. He did not go fishing that day. Instead, he walked straight to the tree and sat down. The river flowed gently, shining under the sun. Birds flew low over the water. The air was calm. Tom rested his back against the tree. He looked at the small wooden birds placed around the ground. Each one reminded him of a person, a moment, a quiet shared silence. His life had been simple, but it had meaning. He closed his eyes and remembered the day he pulled the coffin from the water. He remembered the fear, the sadness, and the responsibility. He remembered how that moment changed him. Tom smiled softly. Later that day, villagers noticed Tom had not returned home. May and Sam went to the river to check on him. They found him sitting peacefully under the tree, his eyes closed, his face calm. They knew at once. There was no panic. No loud voices. Only silence and respect. The village gathered quietly. They stood near the river, just as they had years ago. The same calm filled the air. The same sense of care. Tom was laid to rest near the tree, close to the place he had protected for so long. The villagers placed flowers and wooden birds beside him. No long speeches were made. None were needed. The river flowed on. After Tom was gone, the village did not forget him. Children were told his story. Not as a tale of sorrow, but as a reminder that one kind choice could change many lives. The traveler Ben returned 1 year later. He saw the tree, the birds, and the quiet space. He understood without asking. He carved one final wooden bird and placed it there. Seasons changed again. The river continued to bring fish. The land stayed fertile. The village remained close. When people felt lost, they walked to the river. When they felt grateful, they walked there too. The story lived on, not written in books, but in actions. In shared meals. In gentle words. In quiet moments beside flowing water. And the river carried it all forward, just as it always had.